Part 4. How to avoid failure on the spiritual path. Chapter 13. The value of japa and the prayer of the heart. Devotional prayer, japa, internal oration, especially if it becomes continuous and is sustained by the practice of the presence of the divine, is a complete in itself path. Japa is not a plea to God with the purpose of obtaining something necessary to the material existence or peace, happiness. A mystic utilizes japa to declare their intention of worship and complete surrender to the divine. I don't enter in intellectual discourses to state dogmatically that Kriya is a quicker path. I am interested only in one thing: while following the path of Kriya Yoga, it is very wise to accept the help of japa. I have already introduced japa in the first part of the book. Here I am setting out to take back that theme in a systematic way. The first part of this chapter deals with the japa that you can practice during the daily chores. The second part of it is devoted to a meditative practice called prayer of the heart. The third part is biographical and tells some personal experiences with japa. There are many reasons for practicing japa. Since the first moments of my practice of pranayam, I had one fixed idea: to practice my kriya routine inside a particular mental state that could be reached through the practice of japa. The idea to renounce to the pleasures of uncontrolled thought during the day was a sacrifice that would generate a new mind. If my idea was correct, japa could help me looking at pranayam not as a mere breathing exercise aiming at the modification of the state of some energetic currents in my body, but as a continuous merging, a cohabitation with a continuous state of bliss. Readings. In Chapter 3 I tell about my finding the book by Swami Ramdas In Search of God. This book inspired my decision to practice japa utilizing his mantra. This is true, but it is also true that I had already read the works of Teresa of Avila and also the book, whose author remains anonymous, The Way of a Pilgrim. Teresa of Avila. In the search of inspiring literature about Omkar, I found the writings of John of the Cross and of Teresa of Avila. The first gives a splendid description of his meeting with the silent music, the sounding solitude. The second drew my attention about the importance of internal oration, devotional prayer. I treasured the words of Teresa of Avila. 1. Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you, all things are passing, God is unchanging. Patience gains all, nothing is lacking to those who have God, God alone is sufficient. According to her, prayer is all in the mystical path. She wrote, the body becomes insensitive and the will is totally captivated by irresistible devotion. The other faculties, such as memory, reason, and imagination, are progressively captivated and occupied with God. Both intellect and will are absorbed in God. Distractions are not possible and the external bodily senses are made prisoners. You can do nothing without prayer and you can do miracles with it. There is no other exercise upon which she insists so much in all of her writings and to which she grants such importance. In her opinion, the soul that doesn't create the habit of prayer won't reach the mystical goal. Strange as it may seem, I firmly believe in this statement. Her words could sometimes appear obscure to people. We Kriyabans can easily understand them. The soul is wounded with love for the divine. Body and spirit are in the throes of a sweet, happy pain, alternating between a fearful fiery glow, a complete impotence, unconsciousness, and a feeling of suffocation, sometimes intermixed with such an ecstatic flight that the body is literally lifted into space. There are moments in which you feel like an arrow has deeply penetrated your heart. One laments with such a vivid and intense pain, but at the same time the experience is so delicious you never want it to end. She is explaining what happens when Kundalini comes up to the heart. I bow to this description because it is true, deeply true. When you experience Kundalini rising, no other reaction is possible except a giant wave of love towards the divine. The strength of this love intensifies around the fourth chakra, as if a mighty hand is squeezing the region of your heart. When you return to normal state of consciousness, you cannot stop your tears of devotion. Before adding other remarks about japa, I explained how, after practicing japa during the day, I encountered the breathless state. I choose to repeat Swami Ramdas mantra and I practiced it aloud for about 108 repetitions in a low voice, not mentally. At evening I retired in my room to practice my Kriya session, and almost at the end of my routine, while mentally moving up and down along the spine, I distinctly perceived that the life of my cells was sustained by fresh energy which didn't originated from the inhaled air. Then I explained how I entered a perfect physical and mental immobility and, at a certain moment, I was completely without breath. The surprise that one of the simplest techniques in the world, such as japa, had produced such a valuable result was very great. In Chapter 3 I state 3 important conditions to be followed in order to obtain the breathless state. 1. The japa is to be practiced aloud, not mentally, for at least one mala, 108 times. 2. It should be practiced not immediately before the Kriya session but at least a couple of hours before it. 3. From the moment the 108 repetitions aloud are done, japa should go ahead mentally, effortlessly, without caring if the mind is concentrated or not. Then I give my idea about the working mechanism of japa. The peculiarity of japa is to annihilate the background noise of the mind. This noise becomes perceptible only when you sit for meditation. There are some thoughts which you can visualize, identify and, in case, block, but a diffuse, persistent hard to rid of background noise nullifies all your effort at concentration. There is also a remark about how the breathless state becomes almost instantaneous when you evoke mentally your Ishta Devta, your favorite form of conceiving the divine essence.